Some disappearances happen in the dead of night. Others happen in broad daylight. But the ones you're about to hear? They swallowed entire families. No ransom notes, no witnesses, no explanations, just silence. These aren't ghost stories. These are real cases, real families, and none of them ever came back. 3 cases, 3 families, 3 mysteries that still haunt investigators decades later. And if you think the first story is chilling, wait until you hear the last one. It may be the most complete vanishing ever recorded. The Jamison family, Eufaula Mountains, Oklahoma, October 8, 2009. Bobby Jamison, his wife Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison packed into their white pickup truck and left their home in Eufaula, Oklahoma. They were headed into the nearby mountains to look at a piece of land they were considering buying. That was the last time anyone saw them alive. 8 days later, hunters found the Jamisons' pickup truck abandoned on a dirt trail. Inside were Bobby and Sherilyn's IDs, wallets, a GPS device, their cell phones, and over $30,000 in cash. Madison's small dog was also in the truck, alive but starving. But of the family, no trace. The area was searched extensively. K-9 units, helicopters, volunteers combed the rugged terrain. But there was nothing, not a piece of clothing, not a drop of blood. What made the case even stranger was the footage discovered on the Jamisons' home surveillance camera. It showed Bobby and Sherilyn going back and forth between the house and truck in a near trance-like state, loading items into the vehicle. Neither spoke. Neither looked at each other. They did this for about 20 minutes. Then there was the letter Sherilyn had written, found in the truck, expressing deep resentment toward Bobby. There were also rumors of drug involvement, mental health issues, and even claims they were involved in occult practices. Theories flew: a murder-suicide, a drug deal gone wrong, a cult ritual, or even foul play by someone they trusted. But none of the theories could explain everything. In November 2013, 4 years after they vanished, skeletal remains were found less than 3 miles from where the truck had been. They were confirmed to be the Jamisons, but even with that grim discovery, the cause of death couldn't be determined. There were no signs of trauma, no obvious cause. To this day, investigators can't say how they died, or why they were found where they were, or why they had so much cash, or why their dog was left behind. It's as if the family walked into the woods and dissolved. The Cowden family, Copper, Oregon, 1974. On the morning of September 1, 1974, Richard Cowden, his wife Belinda, their 5-year-old son David, and 5-month-old daughter Melissa were camping at Carberry Creek in Oregon. It was Labor Day weekend. They were an ordinary family. Richard worked as a logging truck driver. Belinda was a homemaker. They had set up a peaceful campsite and were enjoying the last bit of summer. At 9 a.m., Richard walked to a nearby store with David to buy milk. They were seen returning to the campsite. That was the last time anyone saw the Cowdens alive. When the family failed to show up for dinner at Richard's parents' house later that day, relatives went to the campsite. What they found was unsettling. The Cowdens' truck was still parked. The campsite looked untouched. A diaper bag, Belinda's purse, and the milk Richard had just bought were sitting on the picnic table. The baby's bottle was full. Belinda's sweater was draped over a chair. Their pet basset hound was tied to a tree, alive but anxious. It looked like they had just stepped away for a moment. The search began quickly. Hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement scoured the woods. Nothing. No signs of struggle, no bodies, no clues. For months, the case went cold. Then in April 1975, 7 months after the disappearance, 2 hunters found the remains of all 4 family members in a cave hidden in the woods, just 7 miles from the campsite. Belinda and the 2 children had been bound and likely died from blunt force trauma. Richard was found nearby. Investigators believed he had been forced to witness the murders before being killed himself. The cave had been searched before, but the bodies weren't there, or at least weren't visible. Some theorized the killer returned later to move or hide them. A suspect, Dwayne Lee Little, was identified. He had a history of violent crime and was in the area at the time. But there was never enough evidence to bring charges. To this day, no one has been arrested. No one knows why the Cowdens were targeted, or why such brutality was used against a family on a quiet holiday weekend. The Jack family, British Columbia, Canada, 1989. On August 1st, 1989, Ronald Jack received a strange offer. A man at a local pub in Prince George, British Columbia, told him about a good-paying job for him and his wife at a logging camp. The camp was remote, but the pay was solid, and they could bring their kids. Later that night, Ronald called his parents. He said he, his wife Doreen, and their 2 children, Russell and Ryan, were heading out early the next morning for work. The next day, the Jack family was gone. Their house was locked. Bags were packed, but no one heard from them again. They never arrived at the job site. No one at any logging camp reported hiring them. The man who made the offer was never identified. 2 weeks later, a mysterious caller phoned a tip line and said the family's bodies had been buried on a rural property. Police searched the area but found nothing. Years passed. No new leads, no bodies, no arrests, just a family of 4 who vanished completely. In 2019, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police officially declared the Jack case a homicide. But without bodies or forensic evidence, they remain lost. To this day, the Jack family's disappearance is one of Canada's most enduring mysteries. There was no trace, no clue. Only a conversation in a bar that led to the complete erasure of a family. 3 families, 3 ordinary days, 3 vanishings that defy logic. They weren't spies. They weren't criminals. They weren't running from anything. They were parents, children, campers, and they were simply gone. Some were later found, but the answers never were. What do you do with a case where everything is left behind, except the people? Maybe the scariest thing about these stories isn't what we know, it's what we never will.